Good afternoon and welcome to Digital Thursday. My name is Heather Hickey. I'm joining you here from the program technology team. Today we're going to be exploring some of the elements of a flipped classroom and some of the digital tools you can use to support that. So just as a reminder, you do have the link to the conversation document so you can ask us questions live. You also have the ability to use the hashtag DPChats on Twitter or Yammer if you'd like to ask us some questions. And just as a friendly reminder, at the end of this session, there is an exit ticket link on that sign-in page as well. So we'll just give everyone a second to get settled and we'll begin. So today we will be exploring some of the tools that you can use to create that flipped classroom environment. We will be looking at Educreations, a screencasting tool. We'll be looking at how you can create a classroom site in Office 365. And we'll also explore how you can use QR codes to attach some videos or instructional pieces for your students. So as we look at a flipped classroom, we look at a model which is opposite to perhaps what we're typically used to seeing. And your instruction or lecture is reversed with your homework elements piece, which means that your students might be receiving the content through a video or an audio clip, and then be coming to work to apply that content while at school. So those short videos is one example of how you might be using that. And now we can devote more class time to that kind of hands-on for projects, tasks, exercises, and discussions. We also look at how we can link this into our Catholic graduate expectations. So we definitely are promoting the idea of a self-directed lifelong learner and a responsible citizen. When we look at the self-directed lifelong learner, we're definitely highlighting the idea here of demonstrating flexibility and adaptability. We're also taking a look at that responsibility piece. So really accepting accountability for one's own actions. And I even connected it here to respecting the environment and how we use resources wisely. So I'm going to share with you just a quick video about the concept of flipped learning.
The flipped class requires us to fundamentally rethink two important aspects of education: space and time.
So let's talk a little bit about space. If you think about the way classrooms have been set up traditionally, they had a chalkboard in the front of the classroom. Then those chalkboards became whiteboards, and then those whiteboards became overhead projectors, which then turned into LCD projectors that we hung on the ceiling. But really the classroom in all of those situations is a presentation station. It's not a center of learning. When we rethink the space of the classroom, we're reorienting how the classroom is used, where the front of the classroom is or where the front of the classroom isn't.
All you have to really do is rethink where you're going to put tables and chairs. But then that begs a very interesting question. Now, what do you do with the extra time you're going to have in a flipped classroom with the kids?
The short answer is we don't know what the best use of your face-to-face class time is, but what we want to encourage you to do is to think about ways you can get your students engaged in some of the higher order thinking, the higher tiers of Bloom's taxonomy, the analysis and application and evaluation and creation components, all within the context of the content that they've already learned before they come to class in better ways with an expert in the room, a content area expert and a learning expert, and that expert is you.
This probably sounds familiar. Project-based learning, PBL, universal design for learning, inquiry learning. These learning pedagogies fit greatly in a flipped learning environment.
In short, a flipped classroom is a way for teachers to transition into the role of facilitator, becoming that guide on the side. We really see the flipped classroom as a transitional tool for educators to move away from being the center of attention in the classroom and move that attention onto students and onto the learning that's happening in those classrooms.
Sorry about that. So we're going to start by exploring one of the screencasting tools that we have access to, which is Educreations. So if you're an iPad school, you have an app for the Educreations. And if you're a tablet school, you can access Educreations through the website educreations.com. So I'm just going to give you a little demo about what that program looks like. So as we come into the Educreations app, and again, this is an iOS app on the iPads, but it is also a web-based program. So there are a few differences in what it might look like in the layout, but essentially you can perform the same tasks. So on both the iPad and on the web-based program, you're going to come in when you log into your account to your dashboard where your stored lessons or videos will be. You'll notice in the top left-hand corner, you have a plus sign, and that is going to be where you create your new lesson. And it will open automatically into this blank whiteboard template. And you'll notice that you have a variety of options across the top here. So you have a record feature, and by using the record feature, it will record the audio and any annotations that you write or add onto the whiteboard space. You can pause that and continue. So if you are building lessons or recording instructions, you can go ahead and pause at different moments. You'll also notice here that you have a drawing tool, a pen tool, and an eraser tool. With the pen tool, you just have to tap the pen and tap the color, and then you can write or annotate onto that space. If you're looking to change up the colors, you just push and hold on those, and you will get a variety of options, and you can change those colors. The eraser tool allows you simply to use your finger to erase as you like, but if you push and hold on that tool, you'll notice that you have the option to clear the page as well. Over here on the right-hand side, you'll notice here there's a little icon that looks like paper. And by choosing that, you get a variety of options for your background or your wallpaper. So depending on the type of tutorial or lesson or instructions you're recording for your students, one of those may be a better fit than the other. You'll also notice right beside it you have a duplicate option. So you can duplicate an entire page or slide or with or without the annotations on top in case you wanted to add to it or change things. You'll also notice right below there is a plus button. And here you're going to get a variety of options. So the first one is text. So again, you can tap anywhere on the space and use the keyboard. And again, with the iPads, you have built in the speech-to-text feature. So you can use that simply by selecting this microphone option here at the bottom. And as long as that's turned on, that feature will work for you in your settings. And you also have the option here for uploading a photo from your camera roll or taking a picture directly from the iPad. So depending on what it is that you're going to be doing a tutorial or a lesson for your students on, if it's perhaps something that you've used manipulatives or something you've built, or you're doing a demo of something, you may choose to use the camera feature and record it that way. But you also can bring in images. So again, depending on what you're doing, you may have a particular image or diagram, or you may have a worksheet that you've pulled off the internet as an image as well. So I'm just going to come into my camera roll here and pull up this particular image. And what you'll notice is it gives you some options at the bottom. So depending how you save that image, you may need to rotate it. You can duplicate it. So perhaps it's an image of a manipulative, perhaps a base 10 block or something like that. And again, you can adjust the size and width with these buttons. And then the last one is the lock in place button. So now that becomes a background to this page. So we can write and annotate over top, but the background won't move around on us. So perhaps I'm doing a little tutorial with the students It could be a review, or it could be introducing new content. And maybe with a particular image like this, you might be building vocabulary with the students. And again, I can be recording these instructions here by hitting the record button. So now it's going to record my audio and my annotations. So you might be pointing out the different vocabulary to the students and, helping explain what that means and labeling things and annotating on top. You'll also notice in the bottom right-hand corner that I can actually go to a new slide, and my audio is still recording, and my new screen here on the second slide, I can go ahead and add more images or content. You'll also notice that as I add something, it pauses the recording. So just as we add in something. There we go. And again, I can continue recording now that I have that in place. And perhaps I've brought in a worksheet to go with the new content I've just given them. And I might be kind of showing them what I want them to do here. Again, annotating. I might be reminding of some of that content. And kind of working through the steps of the different questions here and explaining different things to the students. So again, it's just an opportunity to provide some of that content and delivery before the students are face-to-face with us, to be able to enhance that experience a little deeper. It allows the students to kind of pause, rewatch, record. So now that I've created this, the question is, how do we deliver that to the students? And there's many different ways depending on the platforms that you use. But in Explain Everything, you'll notice the export button is here in the top left. So I'm going to go ahead and hit that. It's going to give me two options: to save as a draft or as a finished video. If you're working in the free Educreations, you get one draft, which means you might record part of the video and want to come back and add to it later. You can save as many finished videos as you like, up to 50 megabytes in that free Educreations. So you'll go ahead and label it. You can add descriptions, and you can keep it private, or you can share it to the Educreations community, and then go ahead and hit save. And it's going to take that right out to your dashboard here. So you notice my previous lessons are all here. The great thing about building it on the iPad is that it automatically saves it into your account. So now I can actually come into the Internet Explorer window here. And I'm just going to come back out to my dashboard of my account that I've logged into. So again, you log in the same way on the iPad as you do at the website, educreations.com. And you'll see that automatically that lesson already is there. So what I can do is I can hit the select button, and I can choose a particular lesson. And what I can go in is assign it to a class. And I'll show you how to set that class up in a moment. But what we can do is assign it right to the class. So now as the students log in, that lesson is there waiting for them to watch that lesson. I can go ahead and give them some instructions as a follow-up, and that could be something, a discussion forum in a collaborative space, or perhaps using an Excel survey or a Google form to have the students fill out some information or questions about the content they just watched. So as I come in to Educreations the first time, and I want to set up that account, what you will do is you'll notice that you can set up classes. So when I come to new class, it's going to ask me to name that class, choose a subject area if I want, choose a grade level if I want, and a description here if I want. And what I can do is add students, and I can add lessons to that. So what you'll notice here is there's a class code that comes up. And what you'll do is either you will do it or you'll send your students to do it. And they will also come to educreations.com.
And when you first come to this website, it's going to ask you, are you joining as a teacher or as a student? And they will say they're joining as a student. Now that you've created your account and you have this class code here, you will give them that class code and they will enter it. It will ask them to use, to enter in their name and possibly their email. I do not have my students put their emails in just to keep their information private and safe. And for their names, I just have them use either their first name or they log in as first name student, last name 1, first name student, last name 2, etc. And once they do that, it's going to ask them to generate an email, it's going to ask them to generate a password. So if your students are young, it might be an idea to kind of pair those up or generate those for your students and document them. The older students usually are pretty good about remembering that. So once you have classes set up and you assign kind of videos to them, once they log in with their password after they've created that account, they'll be able to just view that video, which is an easy way for them to see it without you having to really move it or upload it anywhere. The other options when you're inside your videos is you'll notice down at the bottom here. Oops. You'll notice down at the bottom here, it will give you your students and it will tell you who has viewed it. So by keeping it in the Educreations platform, you also have an idea of which students came in and viewed that. The other option here is you'll notice there's a share setting. And if you are using a particular site or D2L, you can take this embed code and you can just embed your videos directly into there. And that's the basis of Educreations. It has many multiple uses, and I would definitely recommend, starting small, starting with a lesson at first.
Okay, so just a few tips there for getting started with one of our options for screencasting tools. So we're using this as a way to deliver content, but you can also have your students annotate their responses in here as well. So they could also create a screencast. Also, just looking at some alternative tools, Educreations is one of many options for kind of recording tutorials. Another option on the iPads is Explain Everything, is another screencasting app. If you are looking for a tutorial on that, we have done a full session on Explain Everything. So on our YouTube channel, DPCDSB, and then the word chats. So if you go into YouTube and type that in, you'll get all of our videos, and there is another tutorial for Explain Everything. Also, if you are familiar with Smart Notebook and Smart Recorder, you can do similar, and you can record and screencast instructions there, and that is available on the Dells and the iPads. You can also just set up a video camera or use your tablet as a camera, and whether you focus that on yourself speaking or you focus it on to a board that you're writing on or a particular paper that you're writing on, you can create a tutorial that way. You might also find it easier if you're not comfortable yet recording yourself or your own instructions. There are many tutorials on YouTube, so you also could search and find one that you find is a good fit for your class and use a pre-made tutorial. And if you're familiar with QuickTime, there's also a screen capturing function on there as well. These are just a handful of the many, many options that are out there for recording those instructions and lectures. So some things we need to talk about when we're considering flipping a classroom. So we're talking about access, if all our students have access. How do we watch that video? Putting some safeguards in place. The idea of aiming for perfection and taking small steps. So when we're talking about access, one of the first things we have to consider is whether our students would have access at home or not to view these tutorials and videos. So you definitely need to build those relationships with your students and kind of find out whether they have access or not. Some alternatives if you find that some of the students don't. A lot of questions we get are what happens if the students don't watch that video at home? So you can put some kind of measures in place. If you know you only have a few students that don't have internet access, you might be able to save that video onto a little flash drive for them. You also can build in some time into your class for students who didn't view the video to view the video when they arrive at school. So you can set up that opportunity for those students who may not have looked at that as you get started with the rest of your students. We're also talking about how do we watch those videos. So students are probably very familiar with watching videos for leisure or even tutorials on YouTube for different things they're interested in. But how does that differ from watching an educational video? So we actually have to scaffold and teach the students how to interact with the video and the content. So whether that's through a task or follow-up questions or giving them instructions within your video and asking them to pause it and record a definition, or so making it interactive for them. So we have to scaffold that and build some success criteria around what your expectations are when they're watching those videos. Also looking at putting safeguards in place. So again, by providing that Excel survey or Google form or having a particular thing built into it, kind of ensures that the students are viewing that video so that you have an idea. If I set up a quick question on Excel survey, I will know before the students come into class whether they've watched that video and they've clicked the link to that survey and filled out a response. So even if it's just a quick question, just for your knowledge. And again, you could press pause in your video and have them do a task and then ask those to bring that task as an entrance ticket into your class. So somewhat the opposite of perhaps those exit tickets we're used to. And just as a rule of thumb, it's kind of an idea about a minute per grade level. So if I'm teaching grade 6, I like to keep my videos at a maximum of 6 minutes. And that might mean having more than one video, but we definitely want to keep them short and to the point. The idea of perfection, don't wait for your videos to be perfect. You definitely will never post one if you do. You want to build your confidence with how you do that. And then once you create more and more videos, you'll become more comfortable and you'll get faster at doing them. So again, if you're not sure, you might decide to start doing some flipped environment simply by pulling tutorials off YouTube. And then you might upgrade that to recording yourself or perhaps screencasting or different elements like that. And lastly, start small. A flipped class is definitely scalable. So you definitely want to maybe start just by flipping a particular lesson. I always find that it's really useful if you find a particular concept that this kids really struggle with. That's probably a great choice to start with. So perhaps you're introducing the idea of division into your class and you know that your students might be struggling with that. So by creating a tutorial video that those students can rewatch as necessary or pause and rewind, you're definitely kind of creating that differentiated instruction environment. You can also consider that you're focused on 5 groups and you might have a particular instructions for one set of students and another set of instructions for another set of students. So just when we're kind of taking a comparison of that traditional classroom to the flipped classroom, in that flipped classroom, the teacher kind of records those instructions or lectures for the students to view outside of class. Again, keeping in mind that some of your students may need some time built in to view them. Also, the idea that your class time is now more devoted to applying the learning versus just gaining the knowledge. So we definitely have more time to kind of work with the students, questioning and kind of reaching those higher order thinking tasks. And also the idea that the students are going to have more time to receive support from the instruction and peers in that environment with that time that you're not standing in front of the class lecturing. I came across this video of a particular educator who has had a really positive experience with her flipped classroom, and I thought I would share with you her view on why it's working for her.
I've been teaching math for the last 5 years, and this is why I flipped my classroom. This is what my classroom used to look like. I was teaching to the middle group of the class, the students that could follow along with what we were doing, and we were going through the content, while I had a group of higher level students, not challenged, bored with the information, ready to move forward. And I had a struggling group of students that were not receiving enough effective remediation. They didn't have the basic content they needed to be working on the content we were currently covering, or they needed more help in order to be successful. This led to a 90% use of class time being spent on delivery and review of content. 90% of the time I was at the front of the classroom lecturing to a group of students, and I wasn't meeting all of their needs. 10% of class time was actually spent on application, which led to, depending on students, to do the application needed to be successful. They had to go home or outside of class and work on applying the concepts that I was giving out in class. This constant battle of not reaching the needs of all students and feeling the need to differentiate for all of my learners allows teachers to feel overwhelmed and ineffective, because we see the need for differentiation, but there's just not enough time for effective differentiation. This called for a drastic change in how we teach. This is where flipping the classroom comes in. Now the students outside of class preload the content. They get the information they're going to need for class. They can pause, rewind, and rewatch the videos as many times as they need to. They can post questions online to their classmates or to the teacher. And it's a self-paced program where they can be remediated by going back and reviewing former topics, or they can work ahead when they've already mastered a concept and are ready to look forward. They get the content here before class, so that when they come into class, my whole classroom has now shifted, where I'm at the center of the class, working between these differentiated groups, focused on different pieces of application. I can now work between each of these groups that are moving at their own pace. This has created a 90% use of class time spent on application of the content, and 10% of class time is spent on delivery of content, when I can answer questions that have been posted or take any other questions that have come up from applying the content. Now in my classroom, all students are engaged and challenged. I have time to work with each group, give them individualized time and instruction as they need, and I can actually work between each of the groups to provide effective differentiation for all my varied groups of learners. My struggling students, my middle group of learners, and I can now extend and expand on my higher level students' prior knowledge and challenge them in the classroom. To learn more about flipping the classroom, visit the Friday Institute's website.
Okay, so just an example of how that teacher's kind of take and fully embrace the idea of a flipped classroom. But again, keeping in mind, you definitely are going to start small and find a starting point. And that's probably by trying a lesson. Again, it's a culture shift for the students as well. So, you know, we really have to work on how they're going to respond to that as well. So one of the options for how you're going to organize these videos, or kind of like a landing page where your students can put some responses and interact together and dialogue together. One site that you might be able to use is within Office 365. And you're going to notice that there's an option for sites here where you can build your own class website. So again, I'm just looking at some of the comments coming in, and the idea of that self-discipline, definitely a big piece of that. And again, that's why we would start small. The idea of, does this fit better with older students or younger students? And again, that might be a reflection of how often you flip a lesson. I definitely could see this right down to kindergarten or grade 1, where I invite them to watch a video to share some learning with their parents at home as well. And that might be a simple little video on some inquiry that's come out in your class or something like that, perhaps around communities or on something in science. And again, very short and simple, perhaps a 1 to 2 minute video that you could use with them to engage them in that experience. Okay, let's take a look together at the Office 365 sites.
So let's explore the options of creating a site within Office 365. So essentially this would act like a class website where you could post your flipped videos and different instructions for students, and to also have students post back to you. So I'm going to show you how to set that up. If we come into sites, You're going to notice that I have created a few sites. So what I'll do is I'm going to kind of walk you through what that could look like and then show you how to set one up. So I'm just going to come into one I've created at first. And you can kind of see that it's acting like a landing page here. And you'll have options to kind of customize this as I did with choosing a background, a wallpaper, some images, titles, things like that. So I'm just going to show you a few of the elements. So you can add in here a news feed onto your site where kind of conversations and posts could happen. So you can leave posts and students can leave posts for you. You also get an area where you can upload documents. So if you're particularly posting a video for tonight's session that the students are going to click on when they get home, or perhaps at the beginning of class, they'll have easy access to find where you've posted that. You can leave kind of event notes for your students with instructions so they know that they have particular dates and calendars attached to things. You can post links and add notebooks and all kinds of things up here for your students. You can actually add links to the web as well. So if you have a particular, perhaps a YouTube video with instructions you found that you're leaving with your students, you could put that there as well. So what I'd like to do is show you how you create one of these sites from scratch. So I'm going to come back out to sites for a moment. Now when you first get here, your instinct's going to want to be to come here to create your site. But actually what we are creating is what we call a sub-site. So to do that, we're going to come up to the right-hand side where the little wheel is. And we're going to come down to where it says Site Contents. And you'll notice at the very bottom, you have the option to add some pieces. So right here, we're going to say add a new sub-site. And this is where you're going to title your site. So you might call it whatever you like here. And here you can kind of customize that. And the rest of these settings, you can play around with them and experiment, but I kind of leave everything the way it is set up by default to create that sub-site for my classroom. So it'll just take a moment to generate that. Okay, and you'll notice you kind of by default get this template, again with a news feed and the document space and links you can add up here. But initially we'll have some options here for you to kind of create this site to begin with. So if you're looking for kind of that idea of changing the style of your site, backdrop or the wallpaper, you can pick a theme, whichever one maybe speaks to you. And you'll notice once you do that, you also have options to kind of change that theme. And you can kind of choose just something that is a preference to you here. So as that kind of generates, bringing the students into the site, so we'll actually have to share this to the students. So if you've created a group with your students, and if you're unsure how to do that, you're going to go to the people option up here. And again, if you look back at one of our past collaboration videos on our YouTube channel, we can walk you through how to set up that group. So after it kind of generates this preview, you can decide if you like that or not. And you'll notice at the top, you can choose to either keep that or go back and edit. And here is where you're going to share your site. So if you've created that group, you'll just type it here. Here you'll notice that you can add in kind of those tasks and timelines. So if I'd like to add a calendar or a task to here to help assign students, keep them organized, I can go ahead and do that as well. So anyway, you can work your way through here to kind of customize your sites for things that you kind of like. And once you're happy, you can click this button that says Remove Me. and you'll be left with your site here. Just to note, if you're familiar with OneNote, Classroom OneNote, there is a notebook here that you can build. You can also come back in to edit the site contents here as well. And you'll notice that there's a class OneNote creator. So if you want to create a notebook for your class that you can bring your students into, and you're familiar with how to do that, that's a good option for creating a landing spot for student work and instructions. And again, you can upload your files and things here. So I'm just going to go back to that site that I had showed you, that I created, and go through some of those elements of what that looks like, perhaps with a flipped classroom. So one of the things I did is I came up to site contents here, and you'll notice there's an option to add an app. So when you click that, you'll notice that there's kind of a bank of apps in here, and some of them are built into the program, and some of them are kind of added on costs that are kind of locked down. You won't have access to those. But the one thing that's kind of popular to use is what we call a document library. So when we click that, I can name this library kind of anything I want there and say create. And what you'll notice is that that folder is right here. And if I click on that now, I create a section for files to be posted and uploaded. So it's acting like a folder, perhaps for you to collect responses from your students. And you'll notice here that my folder is under recent, and you have the option in site contents to kind of edit and move that around. So now I can create full subfolders, which are called libraries. So if perhaps I've given my students a task and I'm wanting them to respond to me, they could come up here and click into the folder, whichever folder I've named, and go ahead and click on that and post in there and upload. And they can do that either by clicking upload and choosing a file, but they can also just create new and start a new Word document or copy and paste into this new Word document. I'm just going to come back here to show you in folder 1. You also have the option of creating individual folders with your students. Once you're inside your particular folder, again, you can hit new and new folder, and you can create these folders. And what's great about those is you can choose to uniquely share those with all students or a particular student. So for example, this elapsed time one, perhaps I've put a lesson inside there and I want that to go to the whole class. So what I can do is click on share and assign that then to my whole class by typing that class name after I've created my group, selecting it, and again choosing edit or view. So if these are just instructions, I probably would just choose view here. And then I would click share. You'll notice that I've created student 1, student 2, student, etc. You could keep going, or particularly you could use their names if you like. And what I can do is actually come in here, click share, and share that to one particular student. And I can do that by typing their name or their student number, the 9-digit student number. And as I do that, it will find the students individually. And again, here I could choose to leave that on the edit option, which means students will be able to come in and add things in here. So once I've chosen that student, I could share it. And what that will mean is the student.
So I just want to highlight to you, when you put something in your site that you've shared with your whole class, you need to just be aware that everyone in there will have access to that. So even though you're setting up a folder for an individual student to upload their work in, other students would be able to actually go in there and see that or do things to it. So one of the things I like to do is have my students save it in their OneDrive and then upload it here into the site. That way there's no issue if by accident that gets deleted or altered in some way.
That's one way to set up a folder for that. And again, to kind of create that library again, you're just coming up to site contents and adding an app here. You'll also notice that once you're in site contents, you get another settings option here. And by going in here, what I can do is come into where the quick launch bar is. And it has kind of all my subfolders and different areas that I've created. And what we can do is click kind of that change order. So that's what I did for my folders. You'll notice is that I created that. They kind of by default go into the recent folder area. And I made that the first option. You can change those order how you want. And that's what's going to appear across the top here. So I wanted those subfolders to kind of be in the first top left-hand corner. So it'd be easy to direct my students to where I wanted them to drop those. And again, I'll just come back to the home page here. So again, I can leave instructions for my students kind of in this news feed. I can post maybe the current options for today. So you'll notice here that I have a kind of video that I've uploaded. Oh, sorry, not a video. This was a document where I wanted them to come in and collaborate after they've watched a video that I've posted there. And again, we've taught the students how to come in and use that Word document for collaboration so that they can kind of feed off each other's ideas. If you're not sure how to kind of set up one of those Word documents, you can go to our collaboration video on YouTube and learn how to do that. But just showing that I've put that link there. Underneath there is the video I've asked the students to watch. So they can click on that and you'll notice that it will generate that video. And again, I've just uploaded this video. This is a video I found on YouTube.
Today we're moving on to a new topic called elapsed time.
So I've just uploaded that video so the students can go ahead and watch that instructional piece and they can rewatch it and pause it as often as they like. And what I've done then is ask them to go into that collaborative document that I've left there. I also could put that into perhaps one of the folders in here. So I could upload the video in here. I could upload that in there instead of the front home page. But that's kind of how you'll decide to use that with your class. You can see sometimes I've also put things in the news feed, a little prompt for them, and just added a little instruction. In this particular case, they were asked to come into their Class 1 notes, and I've attached my Class 1 note up here, and they would just click on that and be able to go into there. So if you're familiar with Class 1 note, that's a great option as well. So essentially your site is acting like a landing page for all of those kind of flipped experiences you might give your students. And you can go ahead and kind of use that calendar feature as well to kind of add some tasks in there and create that. So just another option for when you're considering perhaps organizing your students into a space.
So again, that's just an overview of how you can get started by creating a class website in Office 365. The nice thing about that is that it is contained to just who we share our site with. So if you're not comfortable perhaps posting your videos on YouTube for your class, this might be a better option for you if you want to contain it just for the students in your class to view. However, with that being said, many educators do like to use YouTube, and they feel quite comfortable uploading their tutorials on there for their students and just giving them a link. If you feel like Sites isn't a great fit for you, you could always just upload your video into the OneDrive and share it with your students, and they simply would just go in and view it. So don't feel overwhelmed if the site isn't a good fit for you, but if it is, it is a great landing page. So I just want to show you a couple of examples of how different teachers are creating their flip videos here.
With the directrix. Okay, so let's graph what we have so far. So 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. There's the vertex. And I know it's opening
So again, you have the option of just
to the right because
using a video camera and recording what you're writing.
I like standard form. Standard form is where X and Y are on the same side. I like it.
And some
whenever I have Y
educators
equals, that's
prefer to
called
use the
slope intercept.
screencasting type tools like Educreations or Explain Everything
And
or Smart Recorder.
Y minus Y1 equals m, x minus x1 is called point slope because they give you a point and a slope. Graph the equation. All right, so I've got this information. Now,
Here's the answer to example 2. This is your original figure that you should have graphed. Notice how the points are labeled A, B,
Some
C,
educators
it's very
prefer
important
just to
label
record themselves
specified. And then once
teaching
you
the lesson.
You reflect it over the x-axis, and we have the x-axis highlighted here so that you make sure that you remember that you're reflecting it this direction, because the reflection makes a big difference if you're reflecting it over the x or over the y.
So I can tell just by looking at this simple example that my volume did not just get 2 times larger. But if I break it apart, it looks like my volume actually got 8 times larger. It's 8 times larger than my original figure. A new volume of 30 inches cubed. If those examples went smooth for you, I want you to go ahead and move on to example number 3. If not, make sure that you take some responsibility, rewind if you need to, watch those parts again. We're going to go ahead, pause the video now while you work example number 3.
First example, 6 times the quantity of y minus 1 plus 8 equals 32. Referring to our steps, distribute first. 6 times y minus 6 times 1. This will simplify to 6y minus 6. And we bring down the plus 8 equals 32. Now step 2, clear the equation of any fractions. We don't have any, so we go to step 3.
So just a couple of examples there for you. I enjoyed the one with the manipulatives being videotaped. So if you know you're going to be providing your students with a particular hands-on experience, sometimes videoing yourself using those exact tools is helpful for the students as well. So just a few options of lots of different ways you can get started by creating those flipped videos or tutorials. And again, if you feel like you might be in a community where your students are not going to view these videos at home, there's nothing wrong with creating the video, watching it as a minds-on together in the class, or providing the students the 5 or 10 minutes up front in the class to watch that video. And it's still providing them the ability to go back and rewind and rewatch as many times as required. So just to take another quick look at one of the options you might be able to use is using QR codes. So some teachers like to just create a video and create a QR code and attach it right to their homework page or in their books. You can see in the bottom example here, they've just cut up little slips of paper with a prompt, and when they scan that with their QR readers, they will be able to see the instructional piece. And again, the same here with the math examples. So just a quick, sorry, I'm just going to come out to my desktop so I can show you that. Just want to show you how you can create that QR code.
If you're looking to create some QR codes that you can attach to those instructions, whether they're kind of a video, screencasting, audio, whatever it is that you'd like to attach, what we can do is create a QR code. And we do that simply by going to a QR code generator site. And you'll notice there's lots of different ones here that you can kind of choose from. You can kind of pick any one here. And all you need to do is paste in a link, and it's going to generate that QR code. So you can either perhaps upload your video or audio clip that you've created into the Deaf and Pale Cloud and create that link. You could also come into YouTube. So whether you're finding other videos on YouTube or you want to create your own YouTube channel and post your videos here like we have. So you'll notice for our tech teams here at YouTube channel, and again, you can just search that and the DPC DSB chats, and you'll notice all our past Tuesday and Thursdays examples are in here. So again, you can just take any link to any of those things and copy it and come into your QR code generator and just paste it here. And you'll notice that it generates that QR code. So you can save that, take a screenshot of it, whatever it is you'd like to do with it. And then you have your own QR code that's going to link your students directly in there.
So that's a great fit if you just want to record a quick video and perhaps just upload it into the cloud in a quick way to share it with them. Of course, it will require the students to have a device with a QR scanner. So there's lots of free ones to download. So a lot of our students are operating off mobile phones, so they actually prefer that. The other option is just to write out the link and let them type it in as well. So lots of possibilities to get your mind thinking. And again, by no means are we saying flip your whole classroom tomorrow, but you might find it a good strategy for that DI piece to just attempt a lesson and try out some of those screencasting tools or audio tools and give your students that opportunity to be able to rewatch your instructional piece. So hopefully we've given you a couple of ideas. Hopefully you'll be able to take something away today and try it out. And if you wouldn't mind just taking a minute and filling out that exit ticket on your sign-in page. And we're looking forward to seeing you again. Have a nice Thursday.